Okay, so in this video, we're talking Dialpad and webhooks. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to basically get events from Dialpad. Now, if you don't know what Dialpad is a phone service that allows you to make phone calls, basically. Most people use it if you're a salesperson, for example, to make outbound calls. Or if your company, you have incoming calls coming in, you can do IVR to route your calls, press 1, press 2, press 3 for different departments, etc. The good news about it is that it actually works with your cell phone. And by cell phone, I mean it has a full-on app that you could access any of the sort of with desktop features. And when it rings, this is the reason why I came across, is that when you get an incoming call, it rings both on the desktop and on your mobile phone. And if you have a physical phone, it'll ring on all three of them. You can pick up on whichever one. It'll also ring on the iPad as well. So it's a fantastic service from that perspective. A little bit on the pricey side, if I gotta be honest, but decent service nonetheless, and it's okay. So I've been working on trying to improve my overall, because here's the truth: we don't answer a phone. I don't answer a phone. I don't know about you, but I just don't answer my phone, period. So one of the problems that I've been having is, well, these calls are coming in, I want to know who these people are, if I should call them back, etc. And of late we've just been getting a lot of spam calls, so this is the reason why we just kind of slowed down answering my phone altogether. We'd read the transcript and see. But what I'd like to do is basically have the phone calls come in and gets routed to some sort of system that could kind of process the call and figure out whether this is something worth my time or not. That's one half of it. The other half is I'd like to take the transcript. So let's say I actually made a phone call to somebody, because we did an outbound call to a customer, and that person, I had a really good conversation with them. I want to be able to take the transcript of that conversation and put it up in the cloud somewhere, right, in my CRM system, in some system, etc. And last but not least, if I'm making outbound calls after I finish with that call, from a sales perspective, I want to be able to trace the activities that happen with that call. So those are a couple of scenarios. So for that reason, you need a webhook. Here's the problem: it is extremely difficult, at least in my perspective and my limited knowledge about development, working with Dialpad. It is just, I don't know why it's so hard, but it's just a really, really hard process. So this video is an attempt to kind of document that process a little bit better for other people, and also for my own self, because I'm going to forget this information 5 minutes from now. So that's basically the reason why I'm doing this. So okay, let's just jump right into it, so we don't waste any time, waste your time and my time. So let me give you some concepts first, because it took me a really long time to wrap my brain around this. Okay, in any other service, let me just start with Read AI, because Read AI, I know exactly how to do their webhooks. So in any other service that I've worked with, at least in the past, setting up a webhook is actually very, very straightforward. It's as simple as you logging in. Let me just log in here. Yeah, it's as simple as you logging in. Go into something like this, integrations as an example, right? Go into a thing like Webhook, clicking on a button that says add, put in a URL, and then decide on what triggers you want to find. Most systems are like that, okay? So you will understand my frustration with this implementation of Dialpad. It took me a good 24 hours to figure this out. This is why I'm documenting it, and I couldn't find any single thing online about it. So with Dialpad, you cannot do this, or at least from my understanding, you can't. Now, they said, I went to ChatGPT and they said to go to your developer profile and you should be able to add an app and do this whole OAuth dance and make this happen. I haven't been able to find it, and most of the requests, if you want to do any single thing with Dialpad, you have to basically submit a request for them to set things up for you, which is kind of crazy to me. But nonetheless, here we are. So in order for you to get a webhook, you need to do a couple things. The first thing you need to do, let's just write this out, so at least we got some. Let's do it in Word. I haven't gone in Word in a while. Why not? So the first thing you need to do is you need to create a subscription. Okay. And what a subscription is basically it's just like it's a webhook event that then you can add things to. So it's really a webhook, but it's like a bare bones webhook with no events. So in other words, you say, hey, I would like to send some data to this particular service. So you create a subscription. And then you need to go to a different part of the system, what they call call events, because in this case I'm trying to deal with call events. And then you need to specify the type of events that you want to engage with or you want to subscribe to. The problem is that you can't do this stuff by going through some UI in their application. You have to do it programmatically, which is where the confusion is for me. Now I'm gonna have to block a lot of my API keys and stuff, but I just want to walk you through the process on how I did this and how I got this going for my own service, and then what I have to do and I'm gonna share some code. I'm gonna have to block a lot of this stuff out because a lot of it is sensitive information, because it's actually my real application that I'm working with, but it's like I just need to share this in order for somebody, hopefully you'll get some value from it. So first of all, the first thing you need to do is you need to log into Dialpad, and let's go .com. So you need to log into your actual Dialpad account, and like I said, all these numbers I have to block because then you go to settings, admin settings, click here, you go to my company, and then you go to authentication, API keys, and then you can click add API key, give it a name, and then click on save test. Oops. API delete. Right? So you give it a name, click and save. It'll give you an API key. You copy that API key, and that's where you're going to use to make all API requests going forward. Okay? So that's one. So you copy that API key. All right? Now, once you get that, that's one half of the battle. Now, in their documentation, you could take that API key. You could take that API key, and then you could go to subscriptions, as I mentioned. Okay. Now, when you do this for the very first time, you have to go to subscriptions. Actually, I take that back. It's not subscriptions. I actually have that reverse in my thing. It's actually the reverse. It's Webhook first, then subscriptions, which are really events. All right. So I'll try to explain it. Okay, so you have to go down to webhooks. Okay. All right. If you go to webhooks, you click on list webhooks. Now I might have some stuff in here, but I'll show you what I mean. So you click on website. See this here? I have one webhook setup. Okay, I have one webhook setup. I'm going to delete this webhook. In fact, let me do it right now. So I could take this ID, copy that ID, come to the delete page, and then I could put that ID here. This took me a while even to figure out that these two are connected. This UI here and this UI here. But if you put this ID here, click on try now, that's going to delete my webhook. So that's gone. So now if I could click on lists and I do try, I don't have any webhooks. Okay? So let's just say, for the sake of thing, that I want to send a webhook to, you know what, we're just going to do this live. We're just going to do this. Let me see. Let's just try this. I don't know if this is going to work. Let's just do it. Let's just do something. Let's just do testing, just as an example. Okay, I just need to put, I think I need to put a URL that makes sense, that works for them. So again, I have to set up a webhook, but the webhook is not, I have to set up a webhook and then add information to the webhook. That's the important part that I want to make sure that you get here, right? It's, let me show you how it's like you have the webhook here, okay, WH, okay, and that does nothing. All it does is just, you're basically just setting a URL, and then you're setting a key. This is important. You're setting a key, which is a secret. Okay, that secret is used in your own method if you're going to be using it from an API standpoint. So whenever that webhook calls, send request to your API, you're going to have to use that key in order to decode the information, decrypt. And the reason why is because they send the information in some sort of JOT token, encrypted JOT token format. So there's a little bit of complexity there that you need to kind of think about. So that's why I'm doing this, because it's, again, I will forget all of this information, and you know what, somebody else hopefully could benefit from it if you're doing some kind of integration with Dialpad. Because like I said, this is more, a little bit more advanced than I would normally do on this channel, but it's my Do It Unfinished channel, and is where I put all this information. By the way, if you're looking for, if you're interested in just kind of brainstorming about some of these more complex stuff, feel free to drop a chat on the comment, and then, you know, subscribe. Okay, so the next thing is that you have to do is you need to decide what events you want to subscribe to. Okay, and then you need to associate them with that webhook. This is the part that was just tripping me up. I'm like, what is, like, I created the webhook, but how do I, it was just mind blowing. So that's basically what you have to do. And the documentation, I find, is just very limited from that perspective. Okay, so I'm going to create a webhook just to show you what I mean. Okay, so I have my keys here. You could, by the way, the keys go here because it goes in as a query string at the end. Basically, it's supposed to be whatever this URL is, and then it's API key equals, and then whatever your key is that you put in there to make it go. Okay, so I'm going to create a new webhook. Okay, so I have my key, which again is going to be blurred out, and then it says error processing. Now the reason why I'm getting this is because I didn't specify a URL. Okay, so I have to specify a URL, and I have to specify a secret, because again, I'm going to need that secret in the future. So the URL that I said I was going to do was this one. Okay, and then the secret, I'm just going to write secret, because you can imagine I'm going to delete all this stuff after I'm finished with it. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to click try, and then it's going to give you this JSON. So this is now your webhook. Empty. I want to make sure that you understand that this webhook is empty. It does nothing right now. All it knows is that whenever you do some subscription to it, it's going to send to this URL, but you need to know this ID because everybody else needs to reference this thing. If you've done any single thing with relational database, it's basically a primary table and a secondary table with a foreign key relationship, right? So that's what this is. So you're going to need this ID. So keep that, mark that ID. Okay, so now that you have that, now you can go to subscriptions, right? Because if you, like I said, now you can go to subscriptions. Go to my document here, right? We got a webhook first, then we can go to subscription and set up events. So if I go to subscriptions here, you got call log, SMS events, all that type of stuff. I only care about the call logs. So if I click on call events, just list events, and I click on this here, it keeps the key API key, so I don't have to keep reporting that API key. You'll see here it says all. So I already have one event. I'm going to delete this one here just so at least you can understand. So I'm going to delete this. So to delete this, I got to put the ID of that event, of that call event there. Okay, so that's gone. So now if I come back to list call event and I click on try, I have nothing. Okay, so in other words, this does not exist. No subscription to that. So I'm going to add one of them. Okay, so what is the event that I can add? You could subscribe to individual event. This is where it was getting a little bit crazy for me. So you could go here, call event, and then you could say I only care about whenever the call ends. That's the only event that I care about. So don't give me everything, just give me that. So here I have to do call status, click on this guy, click on this, and then you could say hang up, right? I think that's the one, right? So that's an example. So you could say hang up, and then it puts this call statuses and it says hang up, and then I have to put my webhook ID. This is where that ID comes in, because again, what I'm doing is I'm associating this with this, right? So now I can put that webhook ID, which was what? This guy here. Okay, so I need to put that here. Then click try. Now I have a subscription to that particular webhook. So if I pick up my phone and I were to dial a number now, right? I got my phone here. If I were to pick up a phone and I were to dial a number, it would trigger this API webhook. Okay? The problem is it's going to send it in this algorithm. It's going to send this in this API secret key here. It's going to send it as this, and it's going to send it with a secret, and it's going to send it as a JWT. So on the other side, you have to decode that on your thing. So I did this in C# because that's my language of choice, but I'm going to put this code in my GitHub. In fact, let me, before I forget, let's just do it right now, make it public so that you could get access to it, because like I said, so confusing. So we're going to click on new. We're going to call it Dialpad Webhook Decoder. Yes, maybe that makes sense. Public, readme. Okay, and then I had to get ChatGPT help me because I couldn't find this in the documentation. There's nothing about how to decode the web token, other than it's very limited. Like basically just mention that in the type there, so you just have to know that. And apparently they're using some kind of method, because it took me like 4 or 5 tries on ChatGPT. But anyway, I got the code for you, don't worry about it. So let's do this first. So let's do this. Oops. Yeah, new repository. So we're gonna just create a new repository, and then I'm gonna copy this, and I'm just gonna go to projects folder, testing. Actually, let's do it in the unfinished folder. Dialpad webhook. Actually, don't even need that. Just do. Okay, so there. All right. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna drop just the actual decoder in it, because you don't need anything else in that. You're obviously gonna put that in your own code, assuming that you're doing this stuff in some form. So again, I'm gonna have to blur a lot of this stuff out. So this secret here will be deleted after the fact, but I'm still gonna blur it out. So so what I did is I made a function, an Azure function, that will take in a request. Let me show you what that request looks like, so you understand exactly what's gonna come from Dialpad, because that was also confusing to me. So Dialpad will send you, like I said, an encrypted JSON. It's gonna look like this, which will make absolutely no sense, because this is a JWT, and it has a signature, so you can't just run this through a random or like an open JWT and decode it. You have to actually use your secret key to decode it on the back end side. Okay, so it's gonna send you this. So what I actually did is I wrote an Azure function. Make this a little bit bigger. Oops, there. Okay, so I wrote an Azure function that decrypts the body, and then it basically gets the content, right? So because it's coming as a JSON element here, right? So decrypt the content, right, which is basically just this. Okay, get the string, and then the secret, which again I'm going to delete, but just so you know, right? That's your secret. Okay, you're going to pass that into this function here, and it's gonna, and I set it up so it could give you back a dynamic type. Only then you can work with it in this format. So when you do that, it's gonna go decrypt it, and like I said, the way how their Dialpad is doing their decryption thing, this was only a ChatGPT thing that had to help me out here. So this is what I'm gonna give you, because then at least you have a starting point of how to decode what's coming back from the API. So I'm going to put that into here, Dialpad, Webhook, decoder, cdr.cs. Okay, paste that in there, and then we're just going to shove that up to the internet, because that's all you need. Right, it's going to take, it's, instead of it giving you back a claim, so you have to do key value pairs, it's going to give you a dynamic object, and then you can work with it. You could even take that dynamic object and reverse engineer it to class. So right, I try to do this right away because I'm going to forget. Okay, so that's up. You have that. I'm going to put a little documentation on it, and maybe this video even, so you understand, but that's that. Okay, so now that you have that, once you run it, the way how I have mine set up right now, just for testing purposes, is it just decodes the whole thing. We're done with this. It just decodes the entire thing, and it just returns, where is it? No, not here. Come on. Yeah, so so here now you can look for types and whatever, but really and truly what I'm looking for is this event type, and the event type is, so I could check for call started, call ended, call hung up, right? And then I could do stuff with this because I could route events accordingly now. So that's basically what you're trying to get to. Here I'm just returning the data, so let me just see if I still have it. I don't know if I could run it because it's not going to work because I deleted the API. But yeah, basically what it'll do, it'll return this in this format, and then you could do anything with it from that particular point, right? So you'll get the call duration, the call phone number, the to, the from, all that type of details. It's going to give you all of that. Okay, so hopefully that's been helpful, because honestly this was really annoying to me. So just to recap, you need to create a webhook first, okay? Then you need to create subscriptions and point them to the webhook using that key after you create your API key. That's the first thing you do, API, okay? And yeah, and then I think that's all that is required, and then from there you could do whatever from there. So I'm gonna keep doing some more stuff. Like I said, I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna delete the other key just in case it got leaked somehow, so you know that I've completely cleaned out my stuff, and I'm gonna recreate these keys and then go from there. But hopefully that's been helpful. Now, if this is actually one more thing, if this is confusing to you, there's a slightly easier way, and I say slightly easier way. You can go to make.com, because this is what I tested out also. You could go to make.com, and then you could just create a scenario, and you could connect your Dialpad account. I won't go into too much details on this one here, but you can create a delete all data, edit. Yeah, so you can create an event, which is the Dialpad event that will subscribe to those events, and then you could take it and send it over to your HTTP request. The problem that I've been running into with this, and again, all these keys are going to be deleted, so don't worry about all that stuff, okay? But the problem that I've been running into with this is that I'm unable to just pass through the JSON to the other stuff. The only way I figured out how to do it is you have to right click and you have to do a module, and then you have to parse a JSON object and create a JSON, and then choose the Dialpad data type, and then you have to manually map each field. So caller ID, state, directions. Where the hell is directions? Directions, right? You get the idea. You just gotta go through and just map all these fields together, and only then you could take that object and pass it through to your object to your function, whatever it is that you're calling. So anyway, hopefully this has been helpful, because I found that this Dialpad, the documentation was just limited, and there's a lot of people who are asking these questions online on how to do it, and they're like, yeah, just check out our documentation or email us, right? So it took me a while to figure it out, and hopefully you've gotten some value out of it. And yeah, if you're looking for more content like this was just kind of raw, just me trying to figure things out, feel free to subscribe to the channel, and have yourself a wonderful day. We'll talk in another video. Bye.